Most are expected to open tomorrow, Jake. As for who's going to get those vaccines, they say first and most important is to take care of all of the canceled appointments. And New York City won't be scheduling any new appointments until they can get through those. Jake.
All right, Erica Hill, thank you so much. Joining us now, CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, I want to start with the White House's launch of this federal pharmacy program. They say it will ship vaccines directly to pharmacies around the country. What does this mean for people out there who want to get vaccines?
I think this hopefully will make it easier for people to get vaccines. I mean, pharmacies, typically neighborhood pharmacies, are a place that people know, along with their own primary care doctors. Having the vaccine in those pharmacies and hopefully ultimately having a steady supply is going to make a difference. We can show you the numbers. 10.5 million doses per week is now what the states are being promised overall. But there's going to be an additional 1 million doses to the federal pharmacy retail program. That number, 1 million, is obviously not a big number. I think the hope is, the expectation is that will start to expand. You know, remember, Jake, some of the big pharmacies have been largely focused in the month of January, at least, on taking care of long-term care facility residents. Now, hopefully, they can shift their attention to everyone else.
And Sanjay, Dr. Fauci is warning that people who have already had COVID-19 could be at risk for reinfection, especially if the variant virus strains become dominant. And we can see those variants have been identified all over the U.S. right now. What's the potential impact of that?
Well, this is a concern. I mean, these variants the viruses are different enough that even if you have antibodies from having been previously protected, it doesn't appear that those antibodies completely protect you from becoming infected again. Do they protect you enough so that you don't get that sick? Perhaps. If it's just that you're getting infected but you're not getting sick, that would obviously be an important distinction to make, but we don't know that yet. We can tell you that if you've been previously infected, you're less protected. If you get the vaccine, you're going to be more protected. And we can show you some of the numbers. Novavax, Johnson & Johnson, those are some of the ones that are currently finishing up their trials. Johnson & Johnson is going to be applying for emergency use authorization. You could see that, when it comes to South Africa, for example, and Johnson & Johnson, 57% protective against moderate disease. But, Jake, that bottom line, and I'm going to keep coming back to this, 85% protective against severe disease overall. So the equation is, look, people are still getting infected, but if they're not getting as sick, not as likely to be hospitalized or die, that's still obviously a tremendous benefit. You wouldn't want people to get infected in the first place, but there's still protection from these vaccines, and that's why we got to get them out quickly.
And Sanjay, yesterday you suggested, with caveats, that there may be some merit to the suggestion that all those second vaccine doses could instead be used as first vaccine doses so as to get as many people vaccinated as possible. Fauci is also warning today that strategy might lead to more mutations. Is that a risk that we should be willing to take?
This is a provocative issue, Jake, and there's a lot of strong opinions on this on both sides. What I will tell you is, I don't need to tell you, but we're in the middle of a public health emergency. We want, obviously, to always collect the best data that we can. But, we can't, shouldn't have had to wait for data on masks, for example, in order to encourage people to start wearing masks. I think we know that there's a fair amount of protection that comes from a single dose, and the amount of vaccine that's going to continue to increase in terms of it's being distributed to the states should more than account for second doses and to get new people their first doses as well. I mean, we're in a public health emergency. If you can give as many people protection as quickly as possible, especially people who are at risk of getting really sick and dying, people over the age of 65, that seems to be the most important thing. I've talked to about a dozen people about this over the last couple of days, and I think, there's an increasing drumbeat, Jake, to say, let's get the first doses out. Do not hold doses back. We're in the middle of an emergency here.
All right. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thanks so much. Appreciate it as always. Decision time looming for Republicans. Side with a conspiracy theory spewing Congresswoman or with the number 3 House Republican leader who voted in favor of impeachment. Now Republican senators are weighing in on the future of the party. That's next.
Hiring new employees takes a lot of patience. Just finding the right candidates is time-consuming, and quickly filling open positions is an important factor in keeping your business moving. Indeed is the only job site that can move as fast as you do. Indeed.com is the hiring site that helps you find quality candidates with Indeed Instant Match. Indeed searches through the millions of resumes in their database to help show you great candidates instantly. Unlike some hiring sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility, delivering a quality shortlist faster. With Indeed, there are no long-term contracts. You can pause your account at any time, and you only pay for what you need. And Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Want your quality shortlist fast? You need Indeed. Right now, get a free $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Tapper. That's Indeed.com/Tapper. Offer valid through March 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
In our politics lead, a rather sharp quote from South Dakota Republican Senator John Thune. He's the number 2 Republican in the Senate. He said, quote, "The House Republicans are going to have to decide who they want to be. Do they want to be the party of limited government and fiscal responsibility, free markets, peace through strength, and pro-life? Or do they want to be the party of conspiracy theories and QAnon?" And I think that is the decision they've got to face. It's a big distraction for them right now, and not in a good way, unquote. That's John Thune. And it's not just a theoretical discussion. House Republicans have to decide whether to punish a conspiracy theorist and bigot, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, spewer of deranged and offensive nonsense, whose views Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell condemned as a cancer yesterday. And House Republicans also will decide whether to oust from her leadership position Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, because she voted to impeach President Trump for inciting that deadly insurrection. Let's get straight to CNN's Ryan Nobles, who's on Capitol Hill. And Ryan, starting with Congresswoman Greene, this afternoon we've seen a wave of Senate Republicans who now seem very willing to strongly criticize her insane views.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. Many of these Republicans following the lead of the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is very strong in his condemnation of Marjorie Taylor Greene last night. But what is interesting about these Republicans is that for right now, at least, they're all on the Senate side. They really play no role in whether or not she continues to serve in the House or serve on these key committees that she is already a part of. And we should also point out that it's not an exhaustive list. There is no doubt many Republican senators that have come out in opposition of some of the things that she said, but she is also finding some support, like South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Take a listen.
I rode down with her going to Georgia, and a very pleasant experience. Mm-hmm. Are these postings accurate? I want to hear from her. Before I judge what to do about her, I want to know what the facts are. If these are not accurate postings, they've been manipulated, I'd like to know that. If they are accurate, do you still hold these beliefs?
So Graham says that he wants to hear from Greene herself. That is also what the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has said. He's going to meet with Greene later today to talk about her future. The question is whether or not she's going to come out and officially walk back some of these more insane conspiracy theories that she's endorsed. She subtly attempted to do that over the past several months. But Jake, if in any way Republicans are going to back away from some of their complaints about her, she's going to have to take a much bigger step forward than she has in the past.
These are videos of her being a 9/11 truther, doubting Sandy Hook, doubting Parkland. I mean, that's just such a ridiculous statement from Graham. Senate Republican leader McConnell is also throwing his support behind Congresswoman Liz Cheney for her leadership position in the House. Republicans are also expected to discuss her future tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. You know, it's not an exact comparison here. It's not really Greene or Cheney, but the way that this is shaping up, it's really becoming about that. In the future of the Republican Party, is it going to be the party of Cheney or the party of Greene? We're hoping to find that answer out tomorrow when the Republican conference meets behind closed doors to hash out some of these issues.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. One challenge for Republicans is that for the last 5 years now, the head of the Republican Party spewed a never-ending sewage stream of conspiracy theories. President Trump, from New Jersey Muslims celebrating 9/11 on rooftops, didn't happen, to Ted Cruz's dad was part of the Kennedy assassination, didn't happen, to George Soros is funding Latin American caravans to come to this country to destroy us, didn't happen, all the way through the big election lie. It's tough to argue that Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing anything new. Let's discuss right now with Mary Catherine Ham and Michael Eric Dyson. Michael joins us. He's the author of the book, Long Time Coming, Reckoning with Race in America. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Mary Catherine, let me start with you. I mean, it's great that Mitch McConnell is condemning the, quote, loony lies peddled by Congresswoman Greene, but that's hardly the first loony lie that we've heard in the last 5 years from the Republican side of the aisle.
No, it's not, and it won't surprise you to find out that I'm with Mitch on his assessment. Excuse me, Senator McConnell. I shouldn't use cocaine Mitch so cavalierly. On his assessment of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look, they have put up with all of this nonsense from Trump for years, but he is gone now, which is why it's even more frustrating for some Republicans to watch as there is this seeming inability to knock down this kind of stuff, right? And by the way, what I don't understand from McCarthy, who took away Representative Steve King's committees when he said stuff that was way beyond the pale, what is the justification for not doing it to Greene? This seems clearly of the same level of rhetoric and problematic. And like, I get maybe you don't go to expulsion because the people have a right to elect who they elect, but I don't understand that part of it. And the Republican Party does have to figure out if it is a party where the energy is devoted to punishing a Cheney for going up against Trump, who is now no longer the president, or if it's a party whose energy is directed at not punishing Greene. Like, yeah. I find it remarkable. It is a real contrast that they have to deal with, and it's toxic to the very voters in suburban areas that Trump lost, that the Republican Party should be in the business of trying to get back.
And, Michael, Democrats have threatened to expel Greene from her committees if Republicans won't do it. But Politico reports this today, quote, members on both sides are already privately talking about how this could set the House down the path of mutually assured destruction, with one party going directly after members of the other, depending on which side is in power, unquote. Do you share any of those concerns?
Not at all. The problem with that, of course, is that they're doing false equivalencies. If our party ends up saying something ridiculous and consternating to the rest of the American public and to its constituency, then we should be in advance protecting them. You should be willing to subject yourself to the same litmus test. If a member of our party says something as ludicrous and as lunatic as what Sister Marjorie is doing, then we should be willing to put them out. So they shouldn't be hamstrung by that. But let's go back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the baby. The Republican Party is the womb. They have produced him. To cry crocodile tears now, to suggest that, oh, my God, this is not us. Yes, it is. To suggest that this is not what the Republican Party has been about ever since this nation has seen, Richard Nixon and his attempt with the Southern strategy to manipulate black voters, or at least white voters against black voters, to engage in, 106 bills in 28 states. To undermine the voting, especially of African-American people, the neo-fascism, the anti-Semitism, the racism. This is the brand of the Republican Party. So, of course, even though Donald Trump is gone, the tentacles of those beliefs are sucking the blood from the Republican vision, and the Republican imagination has always been distorted by this white supremacist temptation. Now it's just explicit. Thank God for Donald Trump. He put it on Front Street. The question is now, can the Republicans recover a sense of gravitas and argue and understand that what this reveals about them is quite ugly and they have to root it out? It's not just Donald Trump. It's Lindsey Graham. It's Mitch McConnell. And it's Marjorie Greene and a bunch of others.
Mary Catherine?
Well, I would say that both parties have a little bit of an issue, as they always have, with sort of relegating the more fringe members of their parties and figuring out how to discipline them. The Democrats have had to sort of twice very lightly condemn Ilhan Omar for anti-Semitic remarks that have been made in public very clearly. I would argue, too, that the problem with Dyson's argument, with due respect, is that if you make everyone into Donald Trump, there is no Donald Trump. Like, is Donald Trump actually a unique threat who was different? Or is everyone all the way down just the same? Because it can't be both. And I think that McConnell is trying to separate from that. And I would argue that in the past could have been much stronger, right? But he's attempting to do that. And McCarthy may attempt to do that as well, as I would suggest that he do. But they're not all the same exact unique threat. And if you think they are, then there is no escape from the era of Donald Trump.
Michael,
and that may in fact be your belief.
Yeah. Michael, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it's a rhetorical sleight of hand. It's a false equivalency. You're missing my argument. My argument is that the Republican Party has been producing volumes of vicious antipathy toward black people, toward brown people, toward immigrants for a long time, and that Donald Trump is merely the hard bigotry of hypocrisy versus the soft bigotry of lower expectations. So my point is that Donald Trump cannot be extricated from the practices